bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen. Here we go! Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate. We love to argue. You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And again, undefeated again. They were undefeated the last time we did this Monday show.
Everybody's undefeated, baby. Yeah. Not everybody. Just one team in the NFL.
There's only one team that's undefeated in the NFL.
Well, I was talking more about the Phillies. They're not undefeated, but they're going to the World Series. Plus, the Astros are undefeated going to the World Series.
The Astros are. And here's the good. The Phillies are undefeated at home. Have not lost a home game yet here in the postseason.
A lot of unbeaten talk, yeah.
And let's get that out of the way right away. Thank you very much to the Philadelphia Phillies from the entire city of Philadelphia, from a sports talk show host on WIP, and from two Birds hosts on Birds 365, because the bye week is like heavy lifting. You don't have an Eagles game to break down and analyze. So why not go ahead and make the World Series, Phillies, and give us a little something to be distracted by during the downtime during the football season. Congrats to them for their World Series win. It was a weird day yesterday. I was at Citizens Bank Park doing a show from 10 to 2, and then I had to get out of it. I had to leave. As everyone is pouring into Citizens Bank Park, I'm going in the opposite direction to go home and watch football. Because I had my CBS show last night, and we do football for the first 2 hours of my show. It's all NFL, no Eagles, but all NFL. So it's kind of a weird day. But even watching on television, the Phillies win and celebration was phenomenal. So now the Phillies get a bye week, much like the Eagles. We got to wait 5 days before the stinking World Series starts.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get one series ending in 5 and the other ending in 4. You get that big lull. But at least, you get to line up the pitching staffs. And at least you get to see the best versus the best. And we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But amazing run. And I'm going to congratulate the Phillies, and I'm going to say, well done, but I will not pander, Jody McDonald. I will not pander. I refuse to do it.
I don't know how you can pander when they're doing what they're doing. It's
well, me and the pander with Nick and the jerseys, and I sent you my joke. That went over well on Twitter.
I can see the responses on that. I don't have to see your Twitter feed to know that.
Come on, people.
Was probably not taken kindly by those who don't have a sense of humor. Oh, I'm absolutely pandering. I went to the closet this morning and said, "Yeah, give me that red T-shirt. I'll go red today. Yeah, let me throw the red on before I sit down with my buddy Johnny Mack." So, yes, congrats to the Phillies. Great week leading up to a World Series matchup between they and the Houston Astros. And a couple of people pointed this out on the show yesterday. Next week, the World Series starts on Friday. So it goes Friday, Saturday, off on Sunday. Thank you very much. Eagles be busy on Sunday. You don't have to split your attention between the Phillies and the Eagles. You can zero in on the Steelers coming to town to take on the Birds. Then off on Monday. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then if it goes as much as Game 6 or Game 7, Game 6 would be Friday back in Houston. but there's a game Thursday night in Houston next week.
Yeah.
And that would be the Texans and the Eagles. So in back-to-back days, you could have Eagles-Texans on a Thursday night, and then Phillies and Astros game 6 in the World Series on Friday night. We know the Eagle fans travel well. They might be the best traveling fan base in the entire National Football League. I know that's debatable. People going off about, Citizens Bank Park is the hardest place to play. It's so loud. They actually raise the players' games. I think that is true. The Eagles go one step further. Their fan base, they take it on the road. Forget about Lincoln Financial Field. They go and take over other teams' stadiums. We know how good a traveling squad they are. Whole bunch of people from Philadelphia are going to make that Thursday night into a Friday thing. They get their hands on tickets for game 6.
You know, it's going to be easier, I would imagine. And I don't know Houston and how, the Astros have been good for a while now.
I think they're 6 straight ALCS appearances. They've been in the league championship series 6 straight years.
Yeah, they have a very good team. So they're kind of used to it in this recent incarnation of Houston. Maybe it gets a little, you take it for granted, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Houston. Obviously, the Texans are not very good, so I would think it would be easy for Eagles fans to take over in that particular game. I think it would be more difficult in the World Series, but I don't know. Is Houston a great sports town? I haven't delved into it as much. They should be from a baseball standpoint. It's difficult to get behind a football team that's been as bad as the Texans. And by the way, it's had so many off the field issues as well. It's really difficult. So I think it would be easy for Eagles fans, more difficult for Phillies fans, and a lot of them are the same, obviously. But
I think if the Eagle fans want to travel, that's a big stadium. It's a nice stadium, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they can take over that.
I've never been. I know you have. You've been to the new Houston Stadium, right?
Yeah.
From what I hear, it's like one of the underrated. With Dallas gets all the coverage. The new one in LA, the new one in Vegas. The one in Houston is as nice as any of them, but because the Texans are never any good, I don't think people notice how nice the stadium is. Oh, they could take it over.
Oh yeah,
they're not going to be flocking. Those Texan fans are not holding on to those tickets, asking for 3 times face value. I think giving them away would be more close to a description to.
I don't think it'll be a problem for the Eagles. I assume it'll be a bigger problem for the World Series, but I don't know. Much fewer seats, as I said. There's people willing to give up their seats, as you said, Jody. Somebody wants to pay egregious amounts just to get in there. You might as well bankroll your whole next season's tickets, So there's that type of thing. I imagine there's going to be a decent amount of Phillies fans there, but hey, we got Pittsburgh first, although people are looking by Pittsburgh, and probably, they should. No, not too many. I don't know how many people were watching that game last night, but I don't know what Pittsburgh is doing. It's difficult. Anytime you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback and you're making that transition, and you have a bad veteran and a rookie who's not ready, and you're trying to go back and forth and make that decision, they're a mess right now.
And I'm a Mike Tomlin fan. There are some naysayers about Tomlin and his skills. And
I don't get that, by the way.
I don't understand it a little bit. All right, so he's not the boy genius offensive guru that some other coaches around the league are. Who cares? All he does is make the playoffs every single year. He's got a Super Bowl in his back pocket. But I think he made a mistake this week. I know Mitch Trubisky's Mitch Trubisky, and he's never going to be a franchise quarterback. He played well the week before when Pickett went out. He won them the game. It wasn't like the defense played great and he was just along the game managing and not screw it up. No, he actually made plays, and they went back to Pickett. And I get it. You're trying to avoid a quarterback controversy. But one of the things I've always liked about Mike Tomlin is he's in the moment. And Pittsburgh season is going by them. Coming into this week, everybody in that division 3-3 or worse. There were no teams with winning records. And by getting the win last week, you actually are kind of hanging in the divisional race. And he went back to Pickett, which I said, believe me, I said it before the game. I just didn't say it on the air with you here, Johnny Mac. I would have played Mitch Trubisky this week. And
yeah, I think we both said, I just assumed Trubisky was going to play.
Because of what he did last week, or because Pickett wasn't going to be physically ready to return?
No, because of what he did last week. I thought they'd go. Now, you mentioned Mike Tomlin. It's a different base in Pittsburgh. Maybe their thought process is, well, we know Trubisky's maybe better equipped to win on a particular Sunday, but long term, he's not our guy. We know he's not our guy. So we might as well get the Jim Schwartz coin startup costs out of the way and keep going and keep going and keep going and get over that hump. I assume it's a different, for Mike Tomlin, you mentioned all the guys never had a losing season. Never had it. He's going to have it this year, but unless things turn around dramatically for Kenny Pickett, up until this point, he's never had a losing season. And you can talk about Ben Roethlisberger and how bad he was at the end of his career, but that guy knew how to play. I mean, there are just guys who know how to play, and they know, and they're going to keep you in games and all this kind of stuff. And they don't have that anymore. And that's a luxury, and it's a really difficult hurdle to get over when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and all of a sudden you wake up one day and he's not there anymore. And then you got to start over. It's very difficult.
Here's the reason why I'm calling Tomlin on the carpet, even if he's being advised, new general manager. Remember, new general manager who was like CEO president before he got the gig when their general manager stepped aside this year. Wasn't like a grizzled veteran guy who's been through the wars of player personnel for years. Or if it came straight down from ownership, let's think about 2023, 24, 25. I don't think Mike Tomlin came on this himself to go, yeah, maybe we just put in our young quarterback because it's better for the future. I don't buy that. And, oh, by the way, the standings dictated you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. That's the part I agree with. I mean, you got to wait until you're out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then when you're out of it, yeah, go ahead. Go. I'm with you 100%. But either way, I mean, we're arguing Kenny Pickett versus Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, it's not. And, I hate to look past this game, but it's hard not to when you're the Philadelphia Eagles, when you're 6-0. And that's
the reason why you don't look past it, John. You got the Texans after that. Because if you're really looking past the opponents that you should beat just by throwing your helmet out there on the field, they got 2 in a row.
Well, I am.
You got to buy into the so what? It's the Steelers into so what? It's the Texans. Yeah, that's a little bit of a slippery slope to be going down. I don't think the Eagles or anyone who's an Eagle fan should be going down that road.
Well, the Eagles certainly shouldn't, and Nick Sirianni does a lot to combat that kind of thing. And, one day at a time, win the day, blah, 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 all that cliche nonsense. But I mean, they should have no issues with Pittsburgh or Houston, and to be honest, Washington as well. And that's why I said going into the bye, I knew this team's going to be 9-0. Washington, by the way, might be a little bit more difficult with Taylor Heineke than Carson Wentz, believe it or not.
No, we'll get to Rodgers and Tampa, Mr. Brady, both.
Well, we'll get the NFC as a whole and the NFC East as a whole. Good for Jeff Kerr, our buddy. Good morning, NFC East. Who knew that? Good morning, best division in the conference should be the name
in the conference in the league.
Yeah, I mean you can make that argument as well. And I'm the biggest culprit, so I'm going to call myself on the carpet. At one point, did we believe in the New York Giants? 6-1, and Dallas. Look, I keep saying Dallas is the second best team in this conference because they were good with Cooper Rush, and if Dak Prescott gets going, and they didn't play well yesterday for the vast majority of the game, kind of broke it open late. And Detroit had issues. They got injuries.
I was going to say, if you watch that game, it was just as much Detroit being Detroit as it was Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, and they lose Amon St. Brown, and don't even get me started on that new stupid rule. If that happens to a key Eagles player, these fans are going to be so incensed. I mean, honestly, he tripped up. I thought he hurt his ankle, and they throw him off the field, and he's done. Now, if he got diagnosed with a concussion, I have no problem with it. And I don't know if he did. Maybe you do, Jody. I don't know if he got officially diagnosed with a concussion. So if he did, I have no problem with it. But if he didn't, I got a big problem with it. I don't like that rule. I mean, overreaction to what happened with Tua in Miami, but that's another discussion. That Dallas defense is legit as a defense could be in the modern NFL. And Dak turns into Dak down the stretch. There's still going to be a team to worry about. But the Giants, I did not see coming. And Daniel Jones, I know I'm not talking to the biggest Daniel Jones fan in the world, but that guy is so athletic, and for whatever reason, people don't realize it. He had another turf monster play, like the one here in Philly. But this one wasn't. It was 20 or 30 yards, and the turf monster got him. If this guy could figure out how to not trip over the turf,
run his own.
I mean, he is so athletic, and for the first time, I think the Giants are utilizing that correctly. So you have to give our old buddy Mike Kapka a lot of credit, along Brian Daboll, obviously the most, who should be the coach of the year. Sorry, Nick. But Nick had a good team. Nobody thought Brian had a good team. So right now, if you force me to choose coach of the year, I'm going Brian Daboll because I did not see this coming with the New York Giants.
Here's the beauty of that debate. They play twice before the end of the season and made the best coach win for coach of the year. If the Eagles beat the Giants twice, then it's certainly Sirianni's award. If the Giants beat the Eagles twice, sorry, Nick, it's all Brian Daboll. If they split, we can have the debate. But we've got, and hopefully they're in a position.
Right now, who would you pick? If you were forced to pick right now, which obviously
Sirianni.
Doesn't. Really?
It's 6-0 is 6-0. The Giants did lose again. Giants lost to the Cowboys. Eagles handled the Cowboys easily. I know you can't do it right down the line like that, but yeah, I'd give Sirianni a very slight nod. But they're the 1-2 choices, and then there's this massive drop off to everybody else in the National Football League, and that tells you how good the NFC East is. But before we give Dak and the Cowboys too much credit, I know, like you said,
by the way, I'll say it again. He did not play well. I said if he starts playing well. The Dallas offense did not play well in that game at all.
That's what I mean. The last 4 possessions for the Lions, 10-6, early fourth quarter, inside the 5-yard line. At the 1-yard line, Jamal Williams coughs up the football. If they take it in there, they're actually up 13-10 with 13-14 minutes to go. He fumbles at the 1. Next possession, Goff interception. Last 2 possessions, fumble. So they turned the ball over 4 times in their last 4 possessions in that game. So the Cowboys won, and the Eagles are undefeated. The Giants only have 1 loss, and the Cowboys only have 2. The Lions are the Lions. And if you're like me, get sucked in by Hard Knocks, watch it, start to like the guys. So, maybe they will be better this year. You say week 1, the house was rocking, no Eagle fans there because Detroit believed in their team. Guess what, Lions fans? Your team still stinks. Your coach may be a soundbite machine, but he can't coach his way out of a paper bag. One of my guys, Aaron Glenn, former Jet, played a charity golf thing with him once, got a picture in my basement. He and I should be fired tomorrow. The Lions are terrible. They just flat out stink.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You're going to wake up one day, much like your Jets. And I thought we were there with the Lions, at least closer early in the season, where all of a sudden, they've been bad for so long. All of a sudden they're drafting these top tier players at the top of the draft every year. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson this year, on and on and on. It's coming, Jody. It's coming because they can all play. Panay Sewell.
Maybe in our lifetime, but
it's coming. Panay, mark my words. Panay Sewell is already one of the best offensive linemen in this league. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a star. I just talked about Amon St. Brown. DeAndre Swift is hurt. They have injury issues. Maybe you could talk about Dan Campbell there because guys can't stay on the field there. Part of that is luck. Let's be honest. Swift's not out there. St. Brown's not out there. We haven't even begun. People forget. Oh, by the way, Jamison Williams is coming to Detroit. They drafted him, and with the knowledge that he tore his ACL in the national championship game, but he's coming. I don't believe in the quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't
4
believe
wins,
in the coach.
Lions. All right, Lions fan, you get the 4 this year.
I don't believe in the coach. I don't believe in the quarterback, but you fell in that trap with that offensive line. I told you about that offensive line. When they're healthy, they can play.
The offensive line of the 1-6 Lions. Okay.
At some point, you saw him. You can say it now. Swift is injured. You're not taking into account the injuries, and St. Brown's been out and how good a player he's turned into. Look,
couldn't open up a hole for Jamal Williams on the 1-yard line yesterday. Win the battle.
Well,
win the war. Get them pushing back into the end zone. Williams gets hit, the 3 coughs it up.
I'm just saying, you're seeing it with your own Jets. How many years have people said same old Jets, same old Jets? All of a sudden, one day,
Jets are all about defense. I watched a bunch of that Jet game. It's all about defense.
Well, yeah, the quarterback's not playing well, but
yeah,
the point is, where'd they draft Ahmed Gardner? Where'd they draft him?
7 or 8, 6 or 7.
Where'd they draft Quinnen Williams? When you pick that high in the draft again and again and again and again, eventually you're going to start getting good players. And eventually those good players are going to start playing well. And eventually things turn. And that's why sports are cyclical. And that's why bad teams get high draft picks. And that's why everything's set up the way it is.
My point is that too many people around the National Football League and one here on Birds 365 had the acceleration of the Lions' improvement a little faster than it actually was going to be and is proven to be. They may eventually kick in at some point. They're still one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the National Football League.
The record is the record. It's about they're a bad team again. But I do think, because I know you saw DeAndre Swift. You know he can play. You know Aiden Hutchinson.
Got to be able to stay on the field, John.
Well, that's
DeAndre Smith has become one of those guys that
is a legitimate concern. I don't know what's going on with their injuries, but they're always injured. And that is something they got to figure out because, you can imagine if you don't have Miles Sanders, if you don't have Devontae Smith, if you don't have these are the players on their team. Now, the Eagles have better players, but these are the impact players that they don't have right now. And you're not going to win if you lose all those players. So they have to figure out what's going on from an injury standpoint. I agree with you there. We talk about Arshton Oda. Maybe he's got the secret. Maybe the Lions don't. Maybe Dan Campbell's too tough on them. They can't stay on the field. They have too many of their key players not there, but that doesn't mean those key players can't play.
They've got some talent, but for varying reasons, they haven't come close to putting it together. All right, we've already done with the line. Beat them week 1, moved on from them. We don't have to worry about them a little bit. NFC East, we talk about the Cowboys. Giants. They've just kind of got something different. The defense played really well. I know the Jacksonville Jags went down the field against them late, which, oh, by the way, shame on Saquon Barkley. They're trying to run out the clock. Barkley's on the sidelines. He sticks his ankle out of bounds before his butt can get to the ground.
I'm surprised they overturned that, by the way.
I thought that was a possibility. I really did. Watching it live, I said,
watching it live. I knew I was like, wait, that he's not. He's not in bounds. I said it immediately. He's out of bounds.
Right.
Why are they running?
Then why would you think they wouldn't overturn it?
Because they went all the way to the timeout. And I thought at that
They were
point,
slow on the uptake. You're right there.
And I thought at that point, all right, it was over. They missed it. They aren't going to look at this.
You got it right.
I'm glad they got it right. I'm not sure if that's the way the mechanics of the rules work, but I guess it doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
You're supposed to, in other words, a timeout to me is a play, right? So if you're in the guts of a game and a coach has to challenge, if you run the next play, you can't challenge. Well, once you call timeout, I guess you can. I guess their thought process is you can still challenge and go back to the last play. I'm glad they got it right, and you're right about Saquon Barkley. Something about Penn State. Miles Sanders has had that problem as well. Going out of bounds when he should stay in bounds. You don't make it that close. And Jacksonville should have won that game. They're another team with Doug Peterson. I mean, they should have won that game, but they didn't. The Giants keep winning these games. Right. I don't know how, but they keep winning these games.
And I'm not going to go as far as you and say Jacksonville should have won the game. I'll say they could have won the game. Seeing as the last play goes to the 1 yard line and 3 Giant tacklers swarm Christian Kirk and make sure that he doesn't get in. That the Giants the defense is a no-name defense. They don't have any Pro Bowl guys there. They don't have guys whose names you easily recognize, but they've come together under their defensive coordinator, who's doing a heck of a job. That was a really good offseason hire by them. Why the Ravens moved off of him, I'm still not sure. I think Martindale's one of the better DCs in the league. They just have that find a way to win mentality and the way of doing things. I still don't love their roster. I compare their roster to the Eagle roster. I go, not even close. Eagles just
especially
have a better
offensively.
Team.
Especially offensively. I think defensively, I think they do have some name talent up front. And I think McKinney's a pretty good player at safety. So they have some players on defense when Leonard Williams has been good for years, Dexter Lawrence. And now
you want to know something? Leonard Williams isn't doing squat this year. You're right. He's the most recognizable name on the Giants defensive line. And he's not even playing all that well. It's everybody else.
Well, Kayvon Thibodeau, we talk about.
That's true. All right. Again, I shouldn't dismiss him here. As high a draft pick as he was.
Yeah, exactly. And same thing I was talking about Jets and Lions. If you're that bad for that long, all of a sudden, and they have Evan Neal as well, 2 top 10 picks. Now he got hurt. I think that is something to keep an eye on for Eagles fans because they lost 2 offensive linemen in that game. They lost Evan Neal, their starting right tackle. They lost Ben Bredesen, who's their starting left guard, both to knee injuries. Now, I saw Neal was an MCL, so that's going to be at least a couple weeks. Hopefully not season ending for him. Don't know on Bredesen yet, but that could be, devastating. They also lost their rookie tight end, Daniel Bellinger. So that was a costly win, but they keep winning. They keep winning.
By the way, I'm going to make a bold statement here. 3 NFC teams: Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants, Minnesota Vikings, all locks to make the playoffs. Week 7 of a 17-week season, I'm locking all 3 of those teams up. Eagles because 6-0 is 6-0. Giants because 6 wins is 6 wins. And the Vikings because 5-1, they were at the bye week, same as Eagles this week. And there's no one else in that division. The Lions.
Yeah, somebody's got to win it.
The Packers. Somebody's got to win that division. And when you're 5-1 and everybody else is struggling as badly behind you as they are, I think the Vikings could stumble into winning that division. So with 10 more weeks to go, I'm already locking up 3 NFC playoff spots.
I'm going to wait.
Giants, Vikings, all locks.
I'm going to wait 1 more week on Minnesota and Green Bay. You're right about the Lions and Bears. They're not relevant. I'm going to wait 1 more week. I know how bad Green Bay's playing. Another terrible loss. They have a lot of issues. But boy, I just don't believe in Minnesota. I just don't believe. And I want to see them play. They're coming out of their bye. They had a bye.
Correct.
They're coming out of their bye against Arizona. Now, Arizona hasn't played well. And the game's I believe, in Minnesota. But all of a sudden, DeAndre Hopkins is back. They are so bad defensively. They are so bad. And I'm talking about Minnesota with that zone. They're where the Eagles were last year. They're playing the same defense. They got so many blown coverages every week. Guys running open. I just don't believe in them yet. I hear what you're saying as far as somebody's got to win the division.
Has to.
And with the Giants, there's no way I'm going to guarantee it at this point because the Eagles are so good and Dallas is better. Now, they're in a very good position, but if they lose two of their offensive linemen, which isn't, they don't have a great offensive line, but it's a lot better than it has been. If they lose two of those guys for a significant period, so I got to wait and see on the injury front. But they're certainly, all those teams are in great position. I mean, they should be able to.
And then there are the teams that spit the bit yesterday. Yeah, that's why I'm locking it up for Minnesota because Green Bay gets beat by the Commanders, the Taylor Heineke-led Commanders.
They're better with Taylor.
I know they're better. I said that here last week on Birds 365. I said in my CBS show Saturday night, look for the Commanders, take the points against the Packers. They'll be better just because it's not Carson Wentz at quarterback. We knew it wasn't going to be this week. We now know it's going to be a month because they put him on IR. So Carson will not be the QB when the Commanders come here to Philadelphia. Yeah, Heineke's got that little nervy thing to him. He's a leader. He's a guy who's not afraid to pull it down. You watch him throw the football, you know that he's not a franchise quarterback. He just doesn't have the prerequisite arm. But
plucky. He's plucky.
Plucky is a great word. That's what he is. That's what the Commanders will be the second half of the season under him, which, we've got one more shot at them. I think the Eagles will handle them. But, the Packers and the Bucks may be done. Again, I know I'm maybe a little ahead of the curve here, but when the Bucks were losing the last couple, it's going to come around. It hasn't. Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. It's going to come around. Giants, Jets, Commanders, 3 straight losses. Yeah, the Packers and the Bucks, and everybody looks at the quarterback, and these are 2 all-time greats. They're not playing well, and the rest of the team is not playing well at all. How did that Tampa defense give up 3 touchdowns to the please here, take all our best offensive players. We don't care if we win or not, Panthers this past week?
Yeah, that's a bad loss. I mean, that is, especially the way it went down. And we got to talk about, at some point, we'll get into the trade deadline because Eagles fans are losing their minds over Brian Burns, which ain't going to happen for a number of reasons. But, 3 points against a team that basically is giving up on the season. And by the way, if you're Carolina, why are you giving up on the season? This is why I can't give up on Tampa Bay. How bad is that division, Jody? Who's in first place in that division right now? In the tiebreaker.
And the tiebreaker, I don't know. I know.
Yeah, I don't. Somebody's got to win that division.
The Falcons are both 3 and 4.
Yeah,
so.
Carolina's 2 and 5.
True. After yesterday's win, they're back in the mix, and they got a win over the Bucks.
We all talk about the Saints and the Eagles have a top 5 pick. Blah blah blah. Hey, they might win.
Saints are only 1 game out of first place too.
They might win that division. So when it comes to the South, I can't rule anybody out, including the Panthers. Although I don't believe in the Panthers.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to make the argument for the Panthers. All right, because there was no Eagle action this week, the bye week. First thing I'm going to get out of Johnny Mack when we get back is the schedule. He may or may not have the answer for us because the Eagles always aren't forthcoming with their schedule of how they're going to do things and when their media availability is. But yes, the Eagles will get back to practicing football this week and then playing this weekend against the Steelers. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. That makes us Mac and Mac on Birds 365. Bye week in the rearview mirror. We now start the serious prep for the Pittsburgh Steelers. J-Mac, how much info you got out of the Birds as to how this week is going to lay out for them leading up to the Steelers?
Wednesday, back at it.
They're not even back till Wednesday?
Nope, not even back to first practice.
I don't know the CBA, and I don't know this.
Now, they'll be back. I mean, as far as media access, nothing until Wednesday. But, I mean, the coaches are obviously working. The rehabbing players are there. The players will be in by probably Tuesday. I don't know that for sure, but they probably gave them the extra day on Monday, which is understandable. They're 6-0. They're 6-0.
That is a lengthy bye week.
Yeah.
If you're going all the way till Tuesday before you get the regular guys back, and I understand the rehab guys around the play, they're not doing anything. They're just working out. You're not really getting anything accomplished as far as building for this game against.
Well, they don't practice anyway. So what is the point?
And you got a point there. Since I rail on that all the time, why change something that's got you to 6-0 to this point? All right,
and
so,
they do practice, but it's just all walk.
But you're assuring me all the players after this week off are all going to be able to recognize each other. They're not going to have a meeting to.
Now that I can't confirm. With any bye week, you're just hopeful that everybody gets back okay. So nobody did any knucklehead things over the bye, and that seems to have come to fruition. That's all that matters.
That's always a good thing. All right. You kind of touched on it before we went to break. We are now not 8 days away from the NFL trade deadline. Next Tuesday is the NFL trade deadline. The big deal with Christian McCaffrey took place last week. He got into the game this weekend for the 49ers.
Yeah, showed a little bit too, by the way.
Give him made a couple plays, a couple of non-plays too, which I guess you can't really call him on the carpet for. He hasn't had a practice with the team just yet, a significant practice. So, and oh, by the way, the 49ers lost because of their defense. 44th spot there to Pat Mahomes.
And that's supposed to be the strength. D'Amico Ryan's getting head coaching.
Oh, everybody loves him. He's going to be the next head coach in the National Football League. Did you watch the 49ers defense the last 2 weeks?
Hey,
the
man,
Falcons,
I say it all the time.
Falcons go through them, and then Mahomes lighten them up.
Well, the Falcons is really concerning. The Chiefs, not so much. I mean, where you're going to see it in the World Series coming up, Philadelphia fans. Still in baseball, a lot of changes in baseball, Jody, but good pitching beats good hitting. Still always has, always will. Can't change that. Mano a mano. You'll see it in the World Series. Guys will pitch well. Maybe it's Wheeler for the Phillies. Maybe it's Verlander for the Astros. Although, by the way, he's always terrible in the World Series. So Phillies fans have a leg up there. In the modern NFL, good offense beats good defense. Good offense beats good defense. Now you got to play good offense. But if you're really cooking, it's easier to play offense than defense in the NFL. I don't think San Francisco is a bad defense. I think they got caught against a bad offense, and they were really humming in the second half, especially. And at that point, it's like, what can you do? But I would still say that's one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. Atlanta concerns me more. I mean, you shouldn't be doing that against Atlanta. But if you give up a 40 spot to Kansas City or Buffalo, if they're cooking, you're going to give up a 40 spot.
All right. How many times has KC scored 40 this year? There's 30, and then there's 44. There's a little bit of a difference. I would tell you there.
Well, all right. Maybe there's a little hyperbole. 40's a lot, but if you get behind it, here's why I'm not concerned about it. If you get behind in a game like that and the game's over, sometimes you give up some touchdowns at the end. Who cares? The point is they got waxed, whether it's 35 or 45 or the demarcation line is not the important part for me. The important part is Kansas City's playing well offensively. If Kansas City's playing well offensively, they're going to score on everybody. Everybody. That's my larger point. If Buffalo is playing well offensively, now I also, and I've told you this, Jody, many times, I thought the league overreacted to that playoff game last year, saying we can't keep up with these two. No, you can't. That if they're playing like that, you can't keep up with them. The goal is to make sure they don't play like that, and sort of whether you want to, I'll go basketball analogy. Is Michael Jordan in his prime? Is he going to score 30? Yeah, but make it difficult. Make it difficult. Make it more.
And that's what I was saying about the 49ers yesterday. They didn't make anything difficult from the first possession to the last. And if you're going to give them a pass on the last couple because, all right, they were buried anyway. No, not for me. Make it difficult. Listen to John McMullen. San Francisco didn't make it difficult on Kansas City at all day, all 60 minutes.
All I'm doing is contextualizing the 49ers defense. Again, the 49ers defense is going to be better than 27 other defenses minimum. That's all I'm saying. So, well, I agree with what you're saying. Make it difficult, fight to the end, do everything. I'm just saying contextually, they're one of the top 5 at worst, top 10 defenses. So that to me doesn't change because of that performance is all I'm trying to say.
And all I'm trying to say is they're 3-4. And oh, by the way, the season
what are they, in first place?
along. Right, that's another bad division.
By the way, Tampa Bay is in first place. After losing 4 and 5, I checked it during the break, Joe.
They got the tiebreaker?
They got the tiebreaker. They're in first place. You know who's in first place in the NFC West?
That would be the Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, the Fighting Genos are first place right now.
Which,
another one. Who saw that coming?
Well, here's what I'll say. Did I see the Seahawks being in first place? No, I surely did not. But I had to read on. When everyone else was saying Pete Carroll is done, if they trade Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll's going to say, here's what you're going to do with your job. No, I'm a 70-year-old guy. I don't need this rebuilding stuff. Number one, I didn't ever believe Pete Carroll was walking away. They're going to have to pull Pete Carroll out of the facility, grabbing and scratching and clawing at the carpet. He's never walking away. I was right about that. And number two, Russell Wilson gone. There's no way. They have to do the rebuild thing. No, they weren't. They believed. Now, to their credit, and I had no bloody clue, they thought Geno Smith could play. They had him in the building. They thought that it wouldn't be a terrible drop-off, that he could do the game manager thing. How many times did you hear, DK Metcalf close to being traded? The Seattle's, they're going into rebuild mode. They can get for DK Metcalf. And I can give DK Metcalf the extension that it needs to keep him. Not only did they not trade him, they extended him as well, which told me, all right, Seattle's not going backwards this year. They actually think they can compete. Well, now they're competing at the top of the division. And those that had Pete Carroll out the door and DK Metcalf out the door, and no, they're still there winning football games, guys.
Well, I'm not gonna pretend I thought Geno Smith could play.
Neither am I.
It wouldn't be a massive downgrade from Russell Wilson. I thought it was going to be a disaster. I just talked about it with Pittsburgh. I mean, it has been a disaster in Pittsburgh going from Ben Roethlisberger to Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. I thought the same thing was going to happen in Seattle. So I give Geno Smith a ton of credit. He's obviously been doing what he needs to do behind the scenes. And yeah, they're playing well and they have a chance to be in that mix. We talk about who's number 2 in the NFC behind the Eagles. Well, we generally look at Minnesota, the Giants, and the Cowboys. Why can't it be Seattle? They're just as good as those teams. I think everybody is just as good as everybody. And, you look at, I don't know if you're a big point differential guy, Jody.
Yeah, I give it its just due. I don't overrate it, but I don't.
I think it's more. I think it's more important as you get later in the season. So it's still a little bit early. But in the NFC West, the only team with a positive point differential remains San Francisco. It kind of tells me they're still the best team. Ultimately, I think they're going to be the best team in that division, but we'll see how it shakes out. Seattle's the only team over 500, but they're minus in point differential, which is rare. So, take it for what it's worth, which probably isn't much.
Well, and again, week 7, we got a lot of football left to be played at this point. As we get 8 days away from the trade deadline, yes. Everybody who's a fan is an amateur general manager. McMullen and McDonald play 2 amateur GMs here on Birds 365 every day. And yeah, there's that much more to speculate on when you're leading up to a trade deadline. Eagles haven't made a deal yet. Howie's got 8 days. I think you and I are pretty much on the same page. I don't see them trading for a quote unquote starting player, guy who's going to come in and play a fairly big role for this team. I just don't think it's happening. Burns, the defensive end from Carolina, is the guy who's being talked about most. Here's why I'm not making a deal for Brian Burns, because he's a good ball player.
He's good, very good player. Very good player.
And he's got another year to run on his deal, so you don't have to worry about doing a contract with him.
Well, you do, though, because next year is his 5th-year option. So
right, that's why I said in the short term. Yeah, he's already locked in for next year.
Yes.
So you can push it another year. that is a concern because you're going to have to sign him, and I don't think he's going to come cheap unless he comes in here and doesn't play well, and then you go, all right, do we really want to sign him? If he plays well, you're going to pay through the nose. So that becomes a tricky thing for Howie Roseman to deal with. And here's the other reason why I'm not making the deal. He's that good. There's going to be interest in him around the league. Maybe more media guys like us speculating that the price is a little bit too high because Christian McCaffrey got moved without a first-round draft pick being in the deal. No 4 picks were, but no first-round draft picks. So if the Eagles offered their own draft pick, which we know is going to be the back end of the first round, maybe 32nd, I don't know if that gets it done. I am not giving up the pick that's got a chance to be a top 5 pick. You're going to give a top 5 pick in the draft up for a guy who's going to upgrade your defensive end position. But we're not talking about an all-pro level player in Brian Burns. There's no way I'm giving up that draft pick. And here's what I think some Eagle fans / speculators are, give up the pick. We got to win. We're all in this year. Do you know how valuable that pick could be? We're only looking at it right now. We got a whole bunch of football season to play. We don't even know how good a draft this is going to be. A whole lot of dominoes need to be knocked over before we get there. But if that's a top 5 pick, and there are teams that need a quarterback, that are dying to get up that, do you know how big a price they'll pay to get that potential top 5 pick? If there's 3 quarterbacks in the draft and 2 of them come off 1, 2, and the next pick is the pick that's going to get you the better quarterback.
And Will Levis is going to be a top 10 pick as well. So yeah, there's going to be tremendous value to that pick. And that's a good point, Jody. Just the value to that pick. Plus, even if you want to keep the pick and take the best edge rusher in the draft, which could be the kid from Alabama, who knows how it shakes out. But, then you have him cost effective for 4 years. I mean, it's still pretty expensive per person, but nonetheless, Brian Burns' contract, $16 million spikes with a 50-year option next year. Now, he's 24 years old. He's got 30.5 sacks through 7 games of his NFL career in his 4th year. He's very productive. They're asking for 2 first-round picks. The difference between him, now you can shake your head. And by the way, Adam Schefter reported this. Now, Mike Kay has told me, forget about 32. They're not taking 32 for Brian Burns, not in a million years. So they want 2 first-round picks. They've already had better offers. They've already turned down better offers. The assumption you're trading a 24-year-old edge rusher is dumb. That's number one. But here's the other part that I want to throw into this. And I looked this up, and that's why I'm trying to find why is this narrative that the Eagles need a better pass rush? Oh, we need more help. What do people expect? What do people expect? Here's coming into the bye week, and this might have changed because of games yesterday. According to ESPN's pass rush, so if you're doing the advanced stuff, Jacksonville was number 1. Dallas was number 2. Eagles were number 3 in pass rush win metric, whatever you want. Now, whatever that is. If you look at individual rankings, if you look at Pro Football Focus, Brandon Graham, number 4. Hassan Reddick, number 26. Josh Sweat, number 28. Brian Burns, number 34.
Okay. Hold on. Can I just stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Brandon Graham, 4th best pass rusher in the National Football League.
No, that 4th best edge rusher overall.
Edge rusher. Okay, sorry.
I'm getting into the pass rushing part of it. As pass rushers, just purely pass
Your
rushers.
pass rushers.
Reddick is number 7. Graham is graded at number 10. Sweat at 41. Burns at 42.
So what was the category? I mean, that Brandon Graham was number 4 in
overall edge rushers.
Right,
so
overall.
run support, everything involved. Everything.
That just amazes me. That BG missing a year, well into his 30s, had no idea what he had left in the tank. And sorry, Brandon, I would have guessed, this is going to be a drop off the table type year more than one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the National Football League.
Let me put, I give the Eagles a lot of credit for this. Now, Graham has played at this level and he's played very well, but they have him on a pitch count. They're well aware. They don't want him playing like he used to play most of the game. They have him on a significant pitch count. So his sample size is much less than, say, Reddick, Sweat, or Burns. He is 34 years old. Long-term, Brian Burns would be much better for this team than Brandon Graham. I mean, let's be honest. But, I mean, you're trying to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't get this thought process. They need help at edge rusher. They don't need help. And then you have this aspect, for depth. You think Brian Burns is going to be a depth piece? I don't.
A depth piece that they want 2 first-round draft picks for. You're giving up 2 first-round draft picks. You better be getting more than a depth piece.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't get this, Christian McCaffrey was the same way. Now, you talk about why didn't Christian McCaffrey get a first? Well, he's older. He's injured all the time. He's not 24 coming off. I mean, that's why Brian Burns is worth more. You can't just keep around star players as break glass in case of emergency guys. One of the things about Christian McCaffrey that I firmly said, I don't want him. And this is the reason why. If you get Christian McCaffrey, you are inherently basically got to get him the football. He's that good. If he's healthy, if he's on the field, you got to get him the football. I don't want to mess with the chemistry of this team. Chemistry class is not an elective in the NFL. It is a requirement. In the Eagles, I don't want to mess with this. They have the 2nd-ranked offense or the 3rd-ranked offense, depending on what metric you want to use, going through the passing game, going through A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, or vice versa with Dallas and Devontae. They don't get the ball at all to their running backs. Who cares? Jalen Hurts, first of all, can run the football better than a dump off to the running back. Now, if you have Christian McCaffrey, Jody, you have to get him the football. It's not going to be Kenny Gainwell, who you don't care about. I don't give a flying you-know-what if I get the football to Kenny Gainwell. Mm-hmm. You're putting incredible pressure on Shane Steichen. It would be a dumb move. That's why Howie didn't do it. Howie loves the player. He wasn't interested at all. For that reason, chemistry matters. Odell Beckham Jr., you don't even have to trade for him. People bring his name up all the time. Why don't you bring Odell Beckham Jr.? Odell Beckham Jr. to be the Quez Watkins role? Yeah, he's better than Quez Watkins. You think OBJ is going to be happy with the targets Quez Watkins gets?
And here's the reason why
it's not fantasy football. I'm sorry, Joe.
It's not in fantasy football. It's real football. And the only motivation that Odell Beckham Jr. would have to come to the Eagles would be, all right, well, he's a guy who's been around and he's trying to win a ring. He won the ring last year. Yeah. He just did that. Yeah. Joined the team late in the season. Let me see if I can hop on, be part of a championship. Been there, done that. So the allure of that with the Eagles doesn't even matter because he's already done that somewhere else. So, yeah, forget anybody who says Eagles.
Joe Banner,
just talking out their ear hole.
Joe Banner calls it the big name trap. And I'll tell you, anybody has ever heard of, they want. And it just doesn't work that way. Chemistry is real. It's not at Miles Sanders, got a lot of heat during the off season, calling them an all-star team. They're close to being an all-star team. You don't want to, everybody can't be an all-star. You need role players for a reason.
All right. Do me a favor, look something up during the break. We're going to take a timeout here, come back. Aaron Schatz from footballoutsiders.com going to join us in hour number 2. Percentage of snaps played by the defensive line this year. You mentioned that they've done a great job, Eagles have, at just using Brandon Graham enough. Not too much, not too little. The balance has been phenomenal. The production has been off the charts. Look up usage of defensive linemen for the Eagles this year, both inside and outside, because one certainly does affect the other. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We are your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. Keep it right here.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an Audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Over the last 17 years, we've built a reputation of growing award-winning teams across the country. Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. That makes us Mac and Mac on Birds 365. Hour in the books. We got one left to play on this undefeated Monday. That's right. The Eagles still haven't lost. All right. Yeah, the rest of the division looked pretty good over the weekend. Giants winning, Cowboys winning, Commanders winning.
That's what I got in trouble for pointing out, Jody. I said the bad bye week for the Eagles is what I tweeted out, that the Phillies took over the city. In the entire NFC East won, tongue in cheek. And so many people took that as, oh, the Eagles don't care. The Eagles are happy for the Phillies. Yeah, I meant really the Eagles were upset. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
Man.
The Eagles were saying, Phils, have a week. Not a problem. We got a whole
And by the way, the Eagles
season to go, and we're planning on making a big playoff run too. So we'll jump on your bandwagon if you jump on ours come January.
Yeah. That by the way, the Phillies could win the World Series, and good luck to them. And the minute the parade is done, it's still an Eagles town.
Correct. We're talking Eagles here on Birds 365. What were those numbers on defensive line percentage of snaps?
I don't have the Eagles have the percentages out on Tuesday. But I can give you the raw numbers. What inside is Fletcher's got 248, Javon's got 244, Milton's next at 146, Jordan's got 135. Marlon T's got 133. So that's the interior.
That's your tackle guys. Okay.
Yeah. Outside, Reddick, and remember I put them in the same category. Even though they call Reddick linebackers, and edge rusher 267. Sweat's at 251. Brandon's at 167.
That is a pretty significant drop off. You described it well, John.
Yeah. And Patrick Johnson's kind of taken over that fourth role for your buddy, Derek Barnett. He's got 67. So they could use a fourth edge rusher. But, I mean, that's not Brian Burns, people. So who do you want to take off the field between Reddick, Sweat?
No, because if you bring in somebody else, you just gave us the numbers, and I think there is certainly – you're able to read the mind of the defensive coordinator and the positional coach and how much they want to use. They're using Brandon Graham perfectly this year. Yeah. If his production is that good and he's grading out that well, because you're not asking him to do too much, all the kudos in the world to the Eagles coaching staff for their deployment. You bring in Brian Burns, that messes with everything.
Oh, yeah.
That changes the number of snaps and how everybody's going to play. And, yeah, you expect the player to be real good, but could he be better than what BG's giving you? Why would you even go there unless you're talking about, 23, BG might not be here, and we need Brian Burns. Okay, fine. No. Stay in the moment. You're 6-0. You got a chance to go deep in the playoffs this year to the Super Bowl. Don't mess with the chemistry. You're exactly
and I imagine that usually, because I pointed that out, you've laid it out probably better than I would. So thank you, Jody. But, people, you just said Josh Sweat. Like, Josh Sweat is a bad player. Josh Sweat has been graded above Brian Burns. Now, I'd rather have Burns. He's younger. He's healthier. He's had, all people care about is sack numbers. He's a finisher. Long term, I'd rather have Brian Burns, but this team is 6-0. Why do you want to mess with 6-0? I could they use a fourth, edge rusher? Yeah, get some depth. All right, if somebody's out there how he likes, Brian Burns is off-season talk. And by the way, Carolina, thankfully, Carolina's not trading Brian Burns. They're not, unless somebody waddles up to him with 2 top 15 picks, then they might consider it.
Right.
They're one game out of first place. They might as well run. He had a very good game yesterday against Tampa Bay. So not the best time to point this out, but I had a very good game against Tampa Bay. Great player, but come on. There's nothing wrong with the Eagles' defensive line right now.
Here's the way I look at the Eagles just from a overall team standpoint with 8 days to the trade deadline. You ever play Jenga, John?
I have.
You have?
Yeah, I'm not very good at it.
And nor am I.
As my age, a little too shaky at this stage.
Same here. But you and I are on the same, and the same, you understand. Everyone, you just see one, and it's a nice, easy piece, and you can pull it out. And if you can do that, it just takes you another step closer to winning. And sometimes you go, if I could get this piece out, man, I could put the other player at a disadvantage. And you pull it out, and there goes the whole friggin' thing. That's where I'm at with the Eagles this week. They don't need to pull the key piece out of the Jenga structure. If you can see a nice little easy piece, Howie, then get your hands on that can help in the margins, go for it. But trading a first or 2 first-round draft pick for a guy at a position you're not bad at already at the edge. No, Howie Roseman doesn't need to do that. And we got to get on this week, J-Mac. We got to get our guy Jimmy Kemsky on, because one of the things we like Kemsky. He's a Malton Mafia guy, same hometown as me. he is more dedicated to the compensatory draft pick tracking than anyone on the Eagles beat. And that's a story this week because Eagles have a whole bunch of free agents at the end of the season. Now, they're not trading Kaiser White. They're not trading James Bradbury. We know that. But a guy like Andre Dillard, if at the end of the season they don't trade Andre in the next 8 days, he walks away, he's going to be in that. The Eagles going to bring back as many free agents as they lose. If they don't, they get compensation. How good a pick would Andre Dillard be? So in a week where you go, well, it's better to trade Dillard and get something rather than nothing, it's not necessarily nothing.
No.
Because
and that's where, Howie's really good. Like Howie knows. I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to comp picks, and you just laid it out. First of all, they don't even matter unless you sign less than you bring in. So unless
which,
you
by the way,
lose
with the Eagles this year, that's a distinct possibility because they have so many free agents.
That is a distinct possibility, and Howie knows. He knows that already. He knows if compensatory picks are going to be relevant to him this offseason. And he kind of knows the market, and that's what he's really good about. So Jeremy Fowler, I think, is the one who broke that the Eagles were calling about Brian Burns. They always call. These are not stories. They pride themselves on understanding the market better than anyone else. And one of the reasons why is because he does all this due diligence. So he probably already knows kind of what Andre Dillard's going to get on the open market, at least in a ballpark type of figure. He already knows all this stuff. So he's working way ahead. And as I said with Eagles fans, just let Howie do his job. Don't worry about it. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not there with Howie yet.
Yeah, I know. Most people aren't. He knows what.
Here's
the thing.
Here's the guy. Hold on, John. Here's the guy who I'm there with. That's the manager of the Phillies. Sometimes Rob Thompson makes decisions that I go, really? That I don't necessarily see the dominoes lining up and how they're going to fall. And then the game ends, and guess what? He was right. So even though I disagree with him or I might question him in the moment, he's had such a track record this season, and his is every single day. Howie's moves are one every 3 weeks. So there's certainly more to second guess with a manager on a day in, day out basis of a baseball team. But Howie's getting most of them right, but he's not quite hitting the percentage that a guy like Rob Thompson is. So I'll look into it, and I won't begrudge an Eagle fan for going, can I at least question it at this time?
Well, that shouldn't be I shouldn't. You can question anything, obviously. But I think most of your questions, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of your questions with Howie Roseman would be about evaluation. And I think those are relevant. When it comes to market,
they're relevant.
Well, yeah. When it comes to market and understanding the market, understanding what pieces are worth and value, man, he's got a better record than Rob Thompson and a much longer record. Does he get a valuation wrong? Yeah, all the time. That's open for all kinds of debate. When it comes to understanding the market, he rarely, and even people bring up like Carson Wentz. That was a great contract. He got the player wrong. They got the evaluation wrong. The contract was phenomenal for what it would have been if Carson Wentz lived up to it. He rarely gets market stuff wrong. That's what I'm talking about.
And I see the point you're trying to make, but here's where maybe you and I differ. You can't separate the two. You can't separate. You can try to. You can go, this is church, this is state. You separate the two. No. They come together. One blatantly dictates the other. You can't just say, well, the valuation, the evaluation. No, the evaluation eventually dictates the valuation. You can't just do a cut and slice right down the middle and say we can look at these two completely separate. They're tied together.
Well, I agree they're tied together because ultimately if you get a good player, and I'll use the Chicago Bears and Ryan Pace as an example because I think there's two with him specifically. Khalil Mack, he overpaid for Khalil Mack. but he turned into Defensive Player of the Year the one year. He was phenomenal. Nobody cared. Mitchell Trubisky didn't turn out well. Didn't turn out well. He looks like an idiot. Guess what? If he turned out well, he was still an idiot because he didn't have to give up what he gave up for Mitchell Trubisky. That's what I'm talking about. You're right. Look, ultimately, it comes down to the player. If the Eagles give 2 first-round picks and 2 more picks, a second rounder, the third rounder, and Brian Burns comes in here and wins Defensive Player of the Year, people aren't going to care. But guess what? It would still be a bad trade because you didn't have to do it. So that part, I think people have a tough time divorcing themselves from, and that's why I use Ryan Pace. One that worked, Khalil Mack. One that didn't work, Mitchell Trubisky. Both were bad. You know, when you keep doing bad stuff, it's going to bite you in the you-know-what. But everybody gets players right. Everybody gets players wrong. That part, fair game.
Understood. But that's why Howie's not batting 1,000. That's why I think it's fair. Or he's not batting 800. You want me to pick the exact number? He's not batting 722. He gets more than his fair share right. Yes, he's better at valuation and evaluation, which I think need to be tied together. I think it's fair to at least Howie doesn't just Howie, whatever you do, I'm in. No, I'm not ready to go there with that. I'm probably going to agree with 9 out of every 10 things he does, but I reserve the right to go, yeah, no, I don't know that he got that one right. We'll see.
Yeah, and I should have said it more succinctly. It's always correct to question players and evaluation of players. Where I don't question Howie is the valuation point, the market point. He's not giving up 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns because he's not dumb. That's why.
Let me ask you this. Will anybody be dumb this week?
Somebody evidently already was. Somebody, according to Schefter anyway, somebody's already offered Carolina 2 first-round picks. Now, I was talking to our buddy Mike Kay. He's really plugged in down there now. He had told me the week prior that they got a way better offer than 32 or the Eagles' second-round pick, which right now would be 32. Ultimately, it might be they don't win the Super Bowl. It might be 28, 20, whatever. You get the point. Late first-round pick. He had told me last week before the Schefter report they had a way better offer on the table than that. That was no way that was going to get done, that kind of deal, because a lot of Eagles fans were speculating, well, give him the second of the first-round pick. Ain't going to, no. That wasn't going to work. Well, somebody gave up that for Khalil Mack. He's 24 years old, edge rusher, premium position. There's a lot of dumb organizations in this league. Well, somebody already has. So it wouldn't surprise me if somebody does it.
And, oh, by the way, as we pointed out earlier, all of a sudden, Carolina back in the mix in that division.
Oh, yeah.
They got the win. Only one game out of first place.
Yeah.
All right. Quickie timeout coming for the Mac and Mac guys. Aaron Schatz, footballoutsiders.com, going to hop aboard. Stay with us here on Birds 365.
greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win. Go to Ocean.
You got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365. We are graced with the presence of Aaron Schatz from FootballOutsiders.com, who is looking longingly at something to his left. What the hell you got your eyes on there, buddy?
Playoff odds, in case you asked me what our odds were for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
We'll start right
well,
there.
where are those odds?
For the Eagles to win the Super Bowl right now.
I have not run the new ones this week yet that include yesterday's game. As of last week, we had the Eagles winning the Super Bowl 21% of the time.
Whoa,
that's a pretty big number.
Now, you were on this team, Aaron, preseason. So you were on this team. I do this every day, and I was not on this team as a significant Super Bowl contender preseason. Obviously, we all are now. Why were you on this bandwagon so early?
First of all, the amount of talent that they added in the offseason on both sides of the ball. I mean, we knew already from last year, right? They were a playoff team. They had a very strong offensive line. There were some good players on defense. But by adding Bradbury, Reddick, Kazir White, getting Brandon Graham back from injury, and then on the offensive side of the ball, adding A.J. Brown, that's just a lot of talent added in one offseason. And when you combine that with the fact that they had the easiest projected schedule in the league, that put them at number one. Now, we didn't have them as the best team in our ratings projection. We actually had Tampa Bay and the Rams ahead of them. But because of the schedule, first of all, we had them higher than anyone else.
Yeah.
And then because of the schedule, I was predicting they would make it to the Super Bowl because I thought they had the inside track on the number one seed, which they do.
And exactly right. It's 6-0. But the one thing about the projections you mentioned, you didn't project, we didn't project, nobody projected the NFC East would be the best division in football and have it not even be close. They are so far the best division in football. It's scary. So that easy Eagles schedule might not be as easy as you, me, or anybody else thought at the beginning of the season.
Well, first of all, the AFC South is still terrible. And that's 4 games.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, our numbers do not like the New York Giants. I mean, I'm getting a little sick. I'm getting a little sick of talking about this week after week, but they keep rolling 7s. It's really ridiculous, the streak they're on of just luck in close games. They're really an average team this year. Now, that's much better than we thought before the season. I thought the Giants were going to be the worst team in the league.
Really?
They're much better than I expected. And Brian Daboll is coach of the year, and it is not even close. But
I'm with you. I'm with you on Brian Daboll. I
going
said
forward,
before,
they look like an average team. They do not look like the kind of team you would imagine is 6-1. Now, Dallas is very good. Dallas has been very good, but the Eagles already played them once and beat them.
Yeah. Well, Cooper Rush, I think if Dallas with that defense, if Dak Prescott starts to play like Dak Prescott, I look at the teams behind the Eagles. And you mentioned the Giants, Aaron. I'm with you with the Giants. I don't know how they're winning these games. I'm kind of that same way with Minnesota. I don't think that's a very good team.
Yep, we have
Dallas,
Minnesota also. We have Minnesota lower than the Giants.
Dallas is a good team. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're a good team. So if you look at number 2 in the NFC, is that where you are? The Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, I think the Dallas Cowboys are the number 2 team in the NFC. Their defense is number 2 in our ratings behind Buffalo, and their offense has been average with a backup quarterback, and it should be better with Dak Prescott back. So yes, I actually do think Dallas is the second best team in the NFC, but the likelihood is they're going to win a wild card, and they're going to have to win 3 games on the road to make the Super Bowl, and that's really hard to do.
I got a text during the show from Coach Nick, and it said, tell Aaron undefeated means undefeated for both the Eagles and the Coach of the Year award. He just wanted to.
He's the favorite. I believe he is the betting favorite.
Yeah, he has
Coach of the Year. Yeah. But to me, it's not. I mean, he's taken a very good team and made it great. Daboll took a team that looked terrible to 6-1. I mean, awful.
I thought before the season, and I said this to Jody, I thought there were 2 teams that were clearly tanking and building. I don't want to use that term tanking, but building for the future. Chicago and the Giants. Yeah. Those were the 2 teams that I thought, well, they're just, this is a loss ledger this year for them. And all of a sudden he's got them at 6-1.
Our line before the season is we don't like their roster, and we don't think they like their roster either, because we were very big on Daboll and we were very big on Shane, the general manager. But we just thought that the players that they were working with, it just wasn't going to be good. And their defense has been awful this year, honestly, except in the most important moments, their defense gets it together. Yeah. And their offense has been way better than anybody expected.
Yeah, I would say the Giants are the team in the NFL right now that can trump analytics. Crunch the numbers. They tell you what they tell you, and then you look up and go, oh, shoot, but they're 6-1, and they made the big play. They tackled Christian Kirk at the 1-yard line on the last play yesterday. That's all that matters. They didn't get into the end zone.
Mike Tenier is our South Jersey-based Eagles fan writer. Yeah. He compared them to the 2011 Tebow Mania Broncos. Like those Broncos Tebow teams just kept winning games that they couldn't possibly win, but eventually they ran out of gas.
Yeah, and but I'll bring the Vikings back in the conversation as well, Aaron. Somebody has to win the NFC North. So I some of these teams have to make the playoffs. The Vikings might have to make the playoff. The Giants might have to make the playoffs, especially if Tampa Bay, Green Bay, the Rams don't get it together. Why have those 3 teams? Because those were the 3 teams we all looked at. What has gone wrong in those particular cities?
Okay, I'll take them from the top to the bottom by our ratings. Tampa Bay is more about bad luck. Their offense has been average, but not terrible. Brady was missing throws yesterday, but for the most of the season, Brady has been fine. Like not spectacular, but pretty good in our numbers. Their running game is really struggling. Their offensive line, particularly up the middle, just lost too many guys to injury. Their defense is still playing really well. So Tampa is the best of those 3 teams by my numbers. Green Bay, first of all, everybody thought they were going to have a top 10 defense. There was really not much to support that idea. Like they haven't had a top 10 defense in years. Why were they suddenly going to have a top 10 defense this year? They don't have a top 10 defense. They have a below average defense. And on offense, Rodgers is just not in sync with his receivers at all. And again, offensive line problems, like Bakhtiari just can't get healthy and stay healthy. And so they've had to shuffle their offensive line constantly, and their special teams are a huge problem. And then the Rams, again, like we're going back to the same well with these teams. Offensive line.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest strength of the Eagles is the offensive line. Like offensive line is really important. Hard to measure with analytics, but really important.
Let me ask about those three teams from another aspect. Coaching. We know that two of them have boy genius, offensive-minded head coaches that are very well thought of across the league, maybe overrated. And you got one guy stepping in for a coach who won a Super Bowl, who I think of as a great defensive coordinator and hasn't been and shouldn't be a head coach in the National Football League. How much of an impact is coaching having on the Bucs, Rams, and the Packers struggles?
First of all, I'd give Todd Bowles a little more time. I wouldn't blame what's happening in Tampa Bay on Todd Bowles at all. I mean, especially because his side of the ball is still playing really, really well. I'd have to look closer, at specific games to see if there are specific decisions. But like I said, so much of this has to do with offensive line problems on all three teams. And a lot of that is injuries or players retiring. And there's nothing a head coach can do about that. So, I don't look at what's going on with those teams and feel like it's coaching. I think the biggest coaching problem right now for those three teams is the inability of Matt LaFleur to handle Aaron Rodgers' ego. Right? Like we talk about.
Well, that's really difficult.
That are measurable and things that
who could?
are not measurable.
Yeah.
And one thing that's not measurable is how you manage your locker room and how you motivate your players. And it's clear that in Green Bay, there is a locker room management issue going on.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't developed a little bit more quickly, to be honest, because Aaron, when Matt LaFleur came in, not a big name, and Aaron's Aaron. So I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. Here in Philadelphia, we get a lot of this, Aaron. So I want to run this by you. The Eagles haven't beaten anybody. We mentioned the schedule. They can't beat anybody by these definitions because nobody's good outside Kansas City and Buffalo. And so until you get to those two teams, nobody's beaten anybody. This league is so parity driven. Isn't there something to say when a team does distance itself, like the Eagles have so far in the NFC?
This year has more parity than any year that I can remember. Like our ratings have a lower standard deviation after 6 or 7 weeks than they've ever had after 6 or 7 weeks because the teams are so close together. And the team that's really far ahead is not Philadelphia. Philadelphia is in number 2, and they're ahead of everybody else, but they're not far ahead of everybody else. Buffalo is the team that is far ahead of everybody else, right?
And they should be, by the way.
Super Bowl favorites right now. But yeah, look, Philadelphia, who can they play that everybody's going to be like, well, I mean, they beat such and such, so that they've proven themselves. I mean, I think Dallas, like even with Cooper Rush, I know it's Cooper Rush, but that defense is really good. I think beating Dallas proves something. I think Tampa Bay is still a good team, and I think in the next couple of weeks we'll see that they establish that they're still a good team. But yeah, I mean, the other problem is that most of the top teams are in the AFC, and the Eagles play the bad AFC division, right? They don't play Baltimore, they don't play Cincinnati, they don't play Buffalo, and they don't play Kansas City.
All right, let me run this by both of you two guys. Get your take on it. John makes a good point about the Eagles can't blow anybody away with their play now because they're scheduled to play 3 very beatable teams in a row. How about if this happens? The Eagles play a game and they score 10 points in the first quarter and 10 points in the second quarter and then 10 points in the third quarter and 10 points in the fourth quarter because they've had this unbelievable run of second quarters, most points ever, 6 weeks in the NFL in the second quarter. But in the second half, not scoring near as much. To their credit, when they really need a ball control drive, to put a game away. They've been able to do that. Time-consuming book, but they have the perfectly balanced 4-quarter, 60-minute game. 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, and they hold the opponents to 3 and 3 and 3 and 3, and they blow somebody out 40-12, and they have this great. Would then everybody go, oh, shoot, yeah, the Eagles are the unquestioned second-best team behind the maybe they haven't caught the Bills yet, but they're that good. They haven't had that 60-minute game yet. Is that the key to make everybody believe in the Eagles?
I'll make 3 points. The first is I think that the Kansas City offense is so explosive when it's at its best that even if numbers say the Eagles are better than Kansas City, and my numbers say they are, the average fan is still going to think Kansas City is better because we can't see those two teams on the same field.
Yeah.
The second thing I'll say is those kinds of quarter-by-quarter splits are completely inconsistent and non-predictive, except for certain teams being better or worse on like the first 15 scripted plays. So that second quarter thing for the Eagles is absolutely not going to continue. Like they're going to be better in the other 3 quarters and not as good in the second quarter.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'll say is this. We keep talking about who have they beat. My research shows pretty definitively that the best way to identify a championship team is the way they destroy their bad opponents. So you learn from the Eagles. The Eagles may have bad opponents, but if they keep destroying them, you've learned they're really good.
That makes sense because if you beat who you're supposed to, that's half the battle in the NFL.
And beat them big.
Yeah, and beat them big. So I go back to week 2. What is now a 5-1 team, and we talked about, you and I both don't necessarily believe in Minnesota. Why is that not? What is it about Minnesota that we don't believe in? I'll let you describe it. Why is that a team that we're not saying, oh, that's a signature win? They're 5-1.
I mean, first of all, their wins, like the Giants' wins, are close. Other than week 1 against Green Bay, their other 4 wins have been very close. Their defense has not been good, Minnesota. Their offense has actually underperformed. This is one of Kirk Cousins' worst years.
I know, it's amazing.
Cousins is very consistent. I know people don't think of Kirk Cousins as consistent, but he's consistently like the 10th best quarterback in the league. And this year, he's like the 14th best quarterback in the league. So it's like a little lower than usual. And their defense has been below average, and they've gotten a lot of close wins. And yeah, they don't feel for real. Last week, I did a list of, by our numbers, going back to 1981, the worst teams to be 5-1. And the Vikings and Giants were the 2 and 3 on the list of the worst 5-1 teams.
I think that perfectly sums up those 2 teams right now.
The Giants eventually are going to get the horseshoe out of their tuchus, and they're going to lose some games.
They've got, maybe it's a magic carpet ride thing. Maybe I'm not dealing with the numbers and the stats and the facts the way you do, but they're starting to scare me from an Eagle perspective.
I mean, they've got great coaching, and Dable, I give Dable credit for player motivation and locker room management and calling plays. Like offensively, they seem to call just the right play at just the right time. Yeah. But man, the Eagles will be favored over them by like a touchdown.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we got a couple of weeks to wait for that. All right, jumping back over to the other conference for just a second, because my partner on Ion Football on Sundays on CBS Sports Radio asked me if we acknowledge that the Bills and the Chiefs are the best 2 teams in the AFC, and then there's a drop-off, who comes in at number 3? And my response yesterday, maybe I was a victim of the moment. Cincinnati looked so good offensively yesterday.
Yeah,
Burrow was so good. I said, we're kind of forgetting we're only 9 months removed from them being in the Super Bowl because they got off to an 0-2 start. They kind of became out of sight, out of mind. Are the Bengals the 3rd best team in the AFC right now?
I would put Baltimore 3 and Cincinnati 4.
It's a good team, Cincinnati. And by the way, their big Achilles heel, Aaron, last year was obviously the offensive line.
Yeah.
They did a lot of work on that in the offseason. It seems to be paying dividends. A little bit of a slow start, but how much better has the offensive line been?
At least bit better, not as much as they wanted. L. Collins has struggled at right tackle, but it's a little bit better. And then some of the problem is Burrow just takes sacks. Burrow just
he does.
Sacks. It's
he
a quarterback thing. A lot of sacks are a quarterback thing, and he just takes sacks. And they can fix the offensive line all they want, and he's still going to take sacks.
Yeah. Yeah, he holds on to the ball.
He believes he's never going to get touched. He believes he's going to make the miraculous play. He and Mahomes are a lot alike in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and they often do. The difference is Mahomes doesn't take as many sacks. Mahomes, it looks like he thinks he's going to make the miraculous play, and then he either does or he throws it away, whereas Burrow takes sacks.
Yeah. Now, since we're talking about quarterbacks, I got to get your thoughts on Jalen Hurts because he's a unique player. Obviously, early in the season, I think you saw more vertical stuff than you're seeing now. So I think people are adjusting. But either way, he makes it very difficult on opposing defenses. And I see, by the way, to a lesser degree, but some similar stuff now with Daniel Jones and the Giants and the way Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are using him. They're starting to use his athleticism, which I don't think people realize how athletic Daniel Jones is. But when you're grading quarterbacks, how do you do that when you have unique players who stress the defense maybe in unconventional ways?
Dual threat Danny, baby. That's what we're calling him. Yeah. Dual threat Danny. Yeah, it's interesting because, one thing I do, you have to sort of rank quarterbacks because, for example, I have an all-pro vote. I have to have one of them is better than the other ones because I only get to vote for one.
Yeah.
Right. But I prefer to look at quarterbacks or players in general as a mix of strengths and weaknesses rather than as a number that defines how good they are. And so, it's when you have a player like Jalen Hurts who has multiple strengths and can do a lot of different things, that's very valuable. And I said before the season that even if Hurts was what he was last year, which was a great runner and a slightly above average passer, I thought that was good enough to take the Eagles to the Super Bowl given their schedule. But he's been better than that, right? His passing has absolutely improved. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now to see how much the up the middle thing has been solved, but I know he's passing up the middle at least a little bit more than he did last year, which is good. More of the field you can use, then the more you stress the defense, right? If you never pass up the middle, they don't have to put their safeties in the middle. And the other thing about Hurts is that, like a lot of these other quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson, and by the way, Daniel Jones, which teams are going to have to learn this, you can't play as much man against him because if you turn your back to him, he takes off. And so it changes what a defense can do against him.
Yeah, except the Turp Monster got him again.
Can't be tripping up, DJ. I want your take on this because we always like playing with Eagle fans and on our stream and Twitter and my WIP phones. The Eagle fans seem to want to add another big name. Not surprising. That's the way Eagle fans. That's
always
the way a lot of them.
Always.
I'm not going to just drop this on the Eagle fans' laps because every fan base, or almost every fan base, does the same thing. Give us a superstar. Give us a recognizable name. Give us a shiny new toy. Well, the one that everyone is talking about this week is Brian Burns, a defensive end from Carolina. The price is going to be what the price is going to be. And if the Eagles were willing to pay it, which neither John nor I think they will be, how would they incorporate him? What do your numbers say about the Eagles defensive ends? Do they desperately need an upgrade? Could they use an upgrade? What the hell are we talking defensive end for? They're perfectly fine there. What are your numbers on the Eagles DE so far this year?
I mostly feel like, why are we talking about an upgrade? They're fine there. What it does is, here's the thing. The Eagles have always prided themselves on depth on the defensive line, both at tackle and at end, where they can bring in waves of guys. So having Burns absolutely improves your ability to bring in waves of guys. Like you've got your first couple guys, and then if they sit down, you got your next couple guys. But they've got a really good pass rush right now. I mean, they've got Graham and they've got Hassan Reddick. And I mean, is it worth the cost of 2 first-round picks to add Brian Burns? I mean, it's not that he's not a good player. He's a very good player. It's just it's a strength that the Eagles already have. I think that if you think about what the biggest need might be for the Eagles, it's something that I don't think is really on the market, which is some kind of like a real game-changing slot receiver, right? With Brown and Smith on the outside to improve that third spot, maybe. But otherwise, I mean, this team, any improvement you're going to make is going to be small, and that's not worth 2 first-round picks.
No, not at all. The big name trap is what Joe Banner calls it. But Brian Burns is a very good player. So
very good.
He is Aaron Schatz at FO_A Shots. You can follow him on Twitter. Editor-in-chief of Football Outsiders with our buddy Mike Tanier, as you mentioned. I do want to end it on the offensive line because I think, you bring up that's what the Eagles do. They build up run on both sides of the football. You just talked about it, defensive line. I'm going to talk about it, offensive line. We got into it a little bit with some of these struggling teams. It seems that's the theme. Offensive line, injuries. Giants, by the way, just lost 2 offensive linemen. That could be their market correction. Is there anything bigger besides quarterback play? I'll put that aside. That judges successful NFL teams better than good offensive line play? Or am I overstating that?
I don't know. I think I would still put your wide receivers and your cornerbacks ahead of your offensive line. Here's the thing, and I'll give some credit to Pro Football Focus for writing about this a lot. Offensive line is a weak link system, okay? Which means that it's more important to not have bad offensive linemen than it is to have good offensive linemen. Like you can have a top left tackle and that's swell, but if your right guard and your right tackle are not good, now we know what the defense will attack. Like you can't have holes on your offensive line. And what the Eagles have done, I mean, we can talk about how much Mailata has developed, and we can talk about Jason Kelce and whether he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But what the Eagles really have done well over the last few years is never have a weakness.
That's a good point. And part of that has been the depth because they've had their fair share of injuries. Well, shoot. Everybody on their offensive line was hurting going into the bye.
Depth on offensive line.
They plug in guys, and the drop off isn't as great as it is in some other places.
I mean, look, they blew a first-round pick, right? I mean, Dillard. Right? Yeah. They blew a first-round pick, and because of depth and scouting and coaching and whatever else has gone into my life, they've totally made up for it.
It's called Stoutland University.
Stoutland University. That's right.
Mailata clued us into that on Sunday Night Football before the bye. Aaron, great stuff. Appreciate you hopping on board. You always educate us when you come on. You know we're going to be bringing you back into class again. Thanks for doing it today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. FootballOutsiders.com. Hope everybody will check out all of our content.
They should.
Thank you, Aaron.
Do that immediately. FootballOutsiders.com with Aaron Schatz. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We still got 10 minutes left to play. That's a big bow on the show today here on Birds 365.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Down the home stretch of an undefeated Monday here on Birds 365. Will Eagles be undefeated next Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, they should be. They can beat the Steelers.
Yes.
Sunday.
I'm going early with my prediction. Yes.
Right. You and I are certainly headed in the same direction there. And we've had Aaron Schatz on the show a couple times since we started Birds 365 a year and change ago, and always love having him on because I just think his stuff is that good. He expresses it well. And I agree with him a lot. We kind of see it the same way. So that's why I like having him on. But there's one thing I disagree with him that he said.
Giants?
No. Well, that too. So there are two things. I think he's I think the world is underselling the Giants right now. No, the Eagles need for a specific slot wide receiver.
I don't agree with that. The same thing I said with Christian McCaffrey. Look, this is not a pass heavy team, and at some point you got to think about traffic, and they play a certain way to take advantage of the skills of the quarterback, and I give them a ton of credit for that. But you have AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. That's plenty for the amount they throw the football. That is plenty, and nobody's going to be happy in that fourth role. So a relevant, I don't want to say relevant, other people are irrelevant, but players who expect the football, Like I said, role players are real, Jody. They're real. And you have to have a certain mentality to be a role player. And star players don't have that mentality. Is my thought process.
Despite the fact that they won this week, my Jets are having an issue with that. Elijah Moore, a year and 6 games into his career. What do you mean I'm not getting targeted? Yeah. You're still a wet behind the year, second-year player.
And he hasn't proven anything. You can imagine, like OBJ. I brought up OBJ. Well, could OBJ be that? Well, in theory, in fantasy land, yeah. In the marmalade forest by the make-believe trees, yes. But not in real life. I'm 100% with you there, Joe.
Correct. And here's where I was going with it for a different reason than you had. I agree with your reason, by the way. But also adding to the thought process, Eagles talk a lot. Everybody talks about it, but because we're Eagles Birds 365, we talk about it with the Eagles. that flexibility is a key. That if you can do several different things and play several different positions, their backup offense can play both guard and center and left and right. And I think that can be overstated from time to time. A guy can play both slot corner and safety. Yeah, Josiah Scott's Josiah Scott. I don't care what position he plays.
I'm with you.
That's overstated. But here's where I think flexibility really is a key, and I would want it on my team. And I don't think it's as emphasized as some of those other ones I just pointed out in. And I know the Eagles feel this way, but they haven't. Sirianni hadn't talked about it all that much. If I've got wide receivers, I want them to be able to do everything. X, Y, Z. I plug you in there on any given play, depending on formation, depending on what the other team is doing. I might want you wide. I might want you in the slot. I want you to do everything. I don't, and the Eagles with the level of the top two wide receivers, that the last thing I want to do is pigeonhole the third guy. No. You need to do what I need you to do on a given play. You need to come in here and be a Swiss Army knife. If I need you in the slot, I need you in the slot. I need you outside. I need you to take the top off the defense. I need you to do everything. You don't have to be great at any of them because we already got two great wide receivers. But the third guy's got to be able to do a little bit of everything. That's where I think flexibility is as big a key as any other position. So I'm just not looking for a quote-unquote slot wide receiver. No. I need a wide receiver who can do a little bit of everything because he's going to be number 3 in this town. He's not moving ahead of either Devontae and or A.J. Brown. So his flexibility and ability to do a little bit of everything is much more important to me.
Actually, Nick talks about that all the time. Actually, I think to more last year when it was a bigger issue with Devontae Smith, because you remember we all talked about because of Devontae in the size issue, it's probably better to play him at blank or more, but he can play X, he can play in the slot. AJ can do whatever the hell he wants. But I think everybody gets caught in you need Wes Welker, you need Julian Edelman, you need that option team. Route guy. Not on this, exactly. Not on this team. This team's not built that way. With Tom Brady, yeah, it's nice. Would be really nice to have that player. But then you'd have bigger numbers for AJ outside as well, Devontae. For the way this team is built, they don't need it. You saw the run pass run option that Shane Steichen likes to call it. I think they could have run that 1,000 times and it would have worked 999 against the Cowboys, where they put A.J. Brown in motion. They brought him back. Then they brought him back again. Then it's up to Jalen Hurts to read the unblocked Micah Parsons. Is he coming at me? And he just flipped it out to A.J. a couple times, and then he flipped it out to Devontae Smith. He's not playing outside receiver. Call him a slot receiver if you want. It's a different type of offense. It works for the Eagles. They don't need a plex receiver. Here's what they need, Jody. I know we got to go. They need a third safety. I'd like a more explosive tight end for 12 personnel a little bit. I'd like a special teams player. I'd like a returner. Role player. They need a role player. So if they get somebody, look at those types of positions.
I forgot to check in with my sources for that Sunday night game against the Cowboys. If John McMullen actually clapped in the press box because the Eagles used motion as much as they did. Because
no clapping in the press box. Although
I thought maybe you couldn't help yourself because the Eagles used as much motion as they did. One of the John McMullen critiques of the Birds this year.
Maybe Nick Sirianni listened to me. So Eagles fans can thank me instead of ripping me all the time.
Shane Steichen goes back and listens to Birds 365 every single day, or so we hope.
There you have
it. All right, partner, we got Clark Judge on tomorrow, another one of our good national guys. He's going to join us. I'll be back here tomorrow. Since you got no Eagles to cover today, you probably got to write 27 articles. Other than that, you're not going anywhere, so you'll be back here tomorrow, right?
That's the plan, Jody. That is the plan.
And I'll make another bold prediction. John McMullen will have a black shirt on tomorrow. Just a guess on my part.
This is not black, but it's,
is it? What is it? Dark brown?
Dark brown.
Okay, looks pretty black to
me. A little black, though.
I might have to go Philly red again. No, they're not playing for 4 days.
Come on, I'm not pandering.
I am. I'm pandering to the Phillies, and we'll do a little bit more of that. But more Birds 365 in 2-2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.